This video is going to be a breakdown of how you can set a budget for success. I'm going to be breaking down our old budget from when Emily and I first got married and running you through those numbers as to how we saved up the money for our first deposit. Now, this is for people who are on really basic incomes. At the time, we were earning about $80,000 income combined. Emily was working part-time at a recruitment agency, and I had just started my job at a mid-tier accounting firm here in Brisbane. So what the idea of this is to show you is how exactly you can potentially save money in your budget and build up a cash flow buffer to set aside money for investing purposes. Whether you're looking to buy shares on the stock market or leverage that money and buy an investment property or your own home, this is a great way to really analyze the numbers and look at how you can potentially find some efficiencies. Now, my name's Luke. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want things real estate, renovating and financial freedom, purposeproperty.com.au if you're looking for a Brisbane buyer's agent, and let's dive into these budgeted numbers. So on screen here, I have an absolute breakdown of my original budget that Emily and I had set when we first got married. This will show you all of the expenses that we outlined and how we tried to save and create surplus in our lives. Now, the annual spend here is $33,742, which is pretty amazing in terms of a limited amount of spend for potentially a great lifestyle. Now, let's start from the top here. So these basic utilities you're going to need no matter what. And we always tried to shop around for a great deal, whether it was looking for new electricity providers to give us a better discount, or just making sure and spot checking and calling up every year to try and ask for a discount and see how we went. Now, we didn't try and push this too far to the limit, but every year we would touch base with our providers, ask for a discount. If we didn't receive one or we could see a better deal, we would take that. And that's how we were able to try and minimize these at the time. Now, internet, again, you're gonna struggle to get anything less than $60 a month for decent internet speed. I know now we pay around $90 a month, so those are pretty much fixed expenses in most people's lives. Now, the big one here is rent. So $17,680. You can see that equates to $340 per week. Now, that was our maximum budget as a couple when we first got married, and it got us a decent apartment. So we were within 10 kilometers of the Brisbane CBD. We had at least 2 bedrooms in the apartment. Sometimes the places were a little bit nicer than others, but that price point, we could relatively afford quite a nice place for ourselves. We had aircon, dishwasher, 2 bedrooms, and enough room within that space. Now, this can be a sacrifice for some people. Some people want to live close to the CBD and are willing to pay for that earlier in their lives and not want to save as much money. So that choice is totally up to you. But for me, one of the big tips here is if you can reduce your living expenses, even for a short period of time while you're saving and while the banks are looking at your serviceability in their calculators, you can really prove to the banks that you are a good saver, and reducing your rent as much as possible is a massive way you can make savings. You can imagine if you were spending double that, you're looking at $680 a week in rent, that you're going to be spending another $17,000 each year, which could be going into a potential property purchase deposit. So big thing to keep in mind. Now, mobile phones, what we do with mobile phones is we always try and buy a prepaid and an annual plan. There's Aldi and Kogan Mobile are the main providers out there that give exceptional plans here, and you can get quite good data on these plans as well. So for around $150 to $180, you can get unlimited calls and text plan, and you can have your mobile phone sorted for the year. Now, I've got a $0 Xbox budget, which was a bit of a disappointment at the time, but it is what it is. And I actually play PlayStation now anyway, so that's fine. Let's roll with a $0 PlayStation or Xbox budget in this budgeted scenario. The next thing here is groceries and fast food. Now, we've budgeted $6,240 in a year for a couple, and that equates to about $130 per week on food. It is hard to live on this cheaper food budget. We definitely don't spend this budget now in terms of our food expenses. We've increased our living and lifestyle a little bit over the last few years, but when we were living as frugally as possible, if you shopped at Aldi and got the basic home kind of brands, you could push that budget down a little bit and save money on your food. Now we've got a bit more of the mindset is that we want to give ourselves the best food that's possible and also really convenient, because we're a little bit more time poor now and we want to have healthy food. So we're going to spend a little bit more money to get either pre-made meals or spend money on more organic and healthy foods. But at that time when we were saving, this was the more limited budget. The last things we've got here on our list are car, clothes, travel, and holiday expenses. So cars are really expensive things to have, and if you've watched my channel, you might have seen that we're purchasing 2 new cars this year. Now, we've had the same little Holden Barina that was made in 2010 for the last 6 or 7 years as a couple. My Kia Rio, which was an old rundown car, which the clutch didn't work, that car has died and it only lasted about 2 years. And since that car died, we decided that we would stick with one car as a couple. It's definitely had some drawbacks, when we both wanted to go to events, or we've had to drop one person off and pick another person up. It's had its drawbacks over the last few years, but I definitely wouldn't change it. I've been able to walk to bus stations or catch public transport, and Emily's been able to use the car, and we've been able to manage that schedule together. So that's been a great way that we were able to save over many years, a reduced amount of money on fuel and maintenance. Depreciation of the car is a really big one. If you're going to buy a $50,000 car, that's going to depreciate most of its value in the first 5 years. So we spent $2,416 in our original budget on incomes equating to around $80,000 total. These last few items are Spotify. We have to have Spotify. We really love that subscription and just having music with no ads. So that's a big one for us. And then clothes, we quite like op shopping. So we enjoy donating clothes, or Emily's a bit better than I at donating clothes. I just seem to throw the old clothes out. But we like going op shopping for a bit of fun and a bit of a Saturday morning task. Go for brunch, go for op shopping. And that's how we mainly spend clothes. And I'm mainly buying football boots and active wear, I guess you could say, or sports clothes. So that's where most of that budget goes. The remaining items were the travel to work and some holiday budget as well. So we had a couple of $1,000s for a holiday budget. Now that's not going to take you to Japan on a ski trip, which we do like to do every few years if we can. Go for a ski trip, go for a holiday that's overseas. But at that point in time, this budget was for more saving focused. So we had $2,000 for more of a local holiday, and then about $1,700 for travel to and from work. So I had reduced travel going into work because I was an auditor and I got some money back for driving to clients, and Ellie was going to work consistently and was spending a bit more money on travel into work. So that gives you a real breakdown of how we get to a $33,000 budget in 1 year. And as you can imagine, $80,000 income combined, less $33,000, less some taxes, there's going to be quite a lot of buffer there. We were able to save at this point in time around about $40,000, and that creeped up to around $50,000 to $60,000 each year in our first few years of marriage because of this tighter budget. Now, we didn't feel like we were missing out. I know this might seem like a tight budget to you, but if you're willing to make the sacrifices for a few years, you can potentially ease off the gas pedal and have a bit more, enjoyable food and living and lifestyle and holidays once you've set yourself up with that base. Once you've bought up an investment property or you've reached that financial goal in terms of saving a bit of money to invest, then you can take your foot off the pedal. If you're going to get stuck in a cycle of earning money and spending money and not really putting a lot for saving and investing, you might struggle to essentially grow your wealth over the long term. And it's going to take you longer to get that snowball effect of building your asset base and growing your passive income. So that's a pretty detailed breakdown of our original budget as a couple and how we managed to create a difference between our incomes and our expenses to essentially have some savings left over at the end of the day, which we could use for money as a deposit on an investment property or our own home in these circumstances. So if you want to see my thoughts on how an average person with an average income of say $70,000 a year can buy their first investment property, then make sure you click this video over here. Peace.